At 5:40. Okay, so we're going to get started. Welcome to the first official stream of the year. If you guys are coming in, okay, just tell me who you are in the chat if it's not obvious by your name, just so I know. I try to keep these as interactive as possible, so if I throw a question to you, please feel free to type something into the chat box. If you're lagging a little bit, that's okay. We're just going to keep the train moving. Whenever we do these videos, obviously we're going to have the work on the screen, so if you want to have the work in front of you as well, so you can do it along with me, or if you've already tried it, please make sure that you are making corrections as we go. Veronica, thank you very much. Love the playlist. All right, so we're looking at worksheet number 1, okay, for the 8th graders. What we talked about live in class is we talked about declensions and how nouns are split up into different declensions. So when you are learning a noun, it is imperative, no pun intended, to know both the nominative form and the genitive form. So we talked about puella, puelli, right? It's that second form, that genitive form, that's going to tell me what declension it belongs to. And when you take that ending off, you're left with the stem. That's the piece of the word that we're going to be adding our endings to. So this cheat sheet, this little chart here, is going to be crucial, okay, to knowing what declension a noun belongs to, right? So if it's first declension, it's going to have I, A-E, okay, in the genitive form. Second declension is going to have the long I, pronounced E. Third is any word that has is in the genitive. Fourth is us, and fifth is e. Okay, fifth is a pretty small declension, so not too many words in there, but obviously the other ones are going to be pretty full. We didn't talk too much about this word parsing. I did mention to you guys when we were looking at like Whitaker's words, for instance, when you have a parsing tool, basically that's going to tell me what form the noun is in. So nouns have 3 pieces of information attached to them. And the easy way to know the answer for these 3 blanks is to look at these 3 headings coming up: case, number, and gender. So nouns have 3 basic attributes. They have case, they have number, and they have gender. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for you guys so you can see that a little bit better. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. So nouns have case, nouns have number, and nouns have gender. Okay. So if I ask you to identify a noun, those are the 3 things I'm looking for: case, number, and gender. Gender, number, and case. The order is kind of, whatever you want. Miss Lau haunted you with those words. Excellent. As long as they stuck, we'll take it. Okay? So the cases we're going to spend a lot more time discussing. These are just kind of the basic definitions for the different cases. We're going to come back to that. We'll talk about all the different genitives and all the different datives and all that good stuff. But for now, just know when I say case, that's what I mean. Is the noun in the nominative case? Is it in the genitive case? Yada, yada, yada. Okay. For number, I'm going to throw this to the chat. What's going to go into these 2 blanks? Nouns in Latin are either blank or blank. They are either blank or blank. This is what we talked about in class. This is what we spent most of class period talking about. Oh, my dude, Jaden gets the first question of the year. They are either singular or plural. Okay? So those are your options when it comes to number. So a noun can be nominative singular, it can be nominative plural, it can be ablative singular, it can be ablative plural. And then the gender aspect of language, it does say that there are 3 genders. Really, there are 2 grammatical genders and then the lack of one of those 2. So in terms of the 3 genders, really the 3 kind of options for a noun's gender would be what? A noun is either blank, blank, or blank. Masculine, feminine, or neuter, right? So masculine, and we want to make sure we call it masculine, not male. feminine, and neuter. Okay. Veronica, what does neuter mean in Latin? If you're still in the chat. When we say a noun is either masculine, feminine, or neuter, what does neuter really mean? And I'll throw this at anybody too. I'm not sure who's still in the chat, but the word neuter, that's okay. N-E-U. Think about like the word neutral. The word neuter in Latin means neither. It's the word for neither. So if a noun is masculine or feminine, right? Those are the two genders that we have for grammar. A noun can also be neither one of them. And that's what we mean when we call it neuter. Down here we have the big old chart, okay? So I'm not expecting you to memorize every single declension. This chart is here so that you can always reference it when you need it in the future. So if this were real school world, this would be in your binder. It would be the first worksheet, so it would always be accessible to you, okay? And the reason I did the charts this way instead of what you guys normally expect is because it's very easy for you guys to get locked into learning these charts going down the chart, but I also want you to learn across the chart because you should be noticing some patterns when you go across the declensions. So for instance, look at these ablative singular forms. We have an A, we have an O, we have an O, we have an E, we have an E, we have an OO, we have an OO, and then we have an E. So if you were to describe to somebody what does ablative singular look like, not one particular declension, but in general, what does it look like, how would you describe it? Hey, hey, what's up, Isabel? What does ablative singular look like? Ah, o, oo, eh. What's the pattern here? What about all these accusatives, right? Right? So ablative singulars are vowels all by themselves. What do accusatives typically have? M. They typically have an M. What about accusative plurals? As, os, ace, oos. Right? What do they typically have? They typically have an S. If you look at ablative plurals, you really have two options. Is, ibus, ibus. Right? So I want you guys to be able to identify these in a different way than just, oh, I know all my first declension endings. I want you to know what all ablatives look like. Because when you're reading a sentence, who cares what declension the word is? Right? You should be able to recognize it for any declension. So our practice, what we're doing here, okay, so you guys can get ahead of me a little bit. That's totally fine. We're looking for the stem of each word, and we're looking for what declension that word is. So I want you guys to, keep the chat lively. Just keep typing them in, okay? Even if you get a little bit ahead of me, that's okay. Just a reminder before we get started, which form of these two is going to give me the stem? Which one am I looking at to get the stem of each word? I got philia and I got philii. I got philios and I got filii. I got genus, generis. Yeah, I'm looking at the genitive and I'm looking at this second form. To get the stem, I just need to chop off the ending, right? So if I look at filii, the stem of that word is going to be fili, right? F-I-L-I. And what declension is that word, and how do I know what declension that word is? What am I looking for? Should have gone through here and done this. It is first. How do I know that it's first? Hey, Amy. Okay. The AE in the genitive, right? So this is definitely a first declension noun. And that's how you look at it, right? You look at that genitive, see what it looks like, see what the ending is, and then when you chop off that ending, you got the stem, okay? What about filios filii? What would the stem be? What's my stem for Filius? Yeah, it turns out it's the same, right? So that's going to happen sometimes, particularly with these gendered words like son and daughter, but the difference is what declension is son. They both have the same stem, but yeah, son is second declension. And there are a few of these where you have the masculine version is the second declension, the feminine version is the first declension. This is for words like son and daughter, god and goddess, some animals, right? Like a equus and an equa would be a boy horse and a girl horse, essentially. What's the stem for genus? Genus, generis. What's my stem? Ooh. Be careful. Which one of these two is going to give me my stem? Yeah, I got to go to this second one. Crucial that you go to the second one, okay? Because the stem is gener. It's why when you have a word based on that, it's a generation or it's general, okay? 60-year recap, you know it, Alexa. What declension is gener? If it's generis in the genitive, what declension is that? That's going to be third declension, right? Okay. And it's all about that is, that is in the second form. Okay. Signum signi, we're going to go to signi. We're going to chop off the ending, and that's going to give us sign. It's not sign, it's sign. And that is going to be a second declension word. Okay. What about this word? Manus, manus. What's the stem? What's the declension? Stem is mon, right? Which we got from here. Not from here. From here. Right? My stem is mon. And the declension, because it's manus, is fourth declension. Okay? So you have to look at the genitive. That nominative is not going to tell you enough, because there are plenty of us words that are second declension, like filius, third declension, like genus, fourth declension, like manus. So it's not the first form that's going to tell you, it's the second form. That's why you need to know them both. What's the stem of vox, of voice? Yeah, it's VOC, right? You gotta go to the genitive. It's why the word voice in English is spelled with a C and not with an X, right? And it is third declension. Fantastic. Okay. Natura naturae. Pretty straightforward on this one. Natur, right? Awesome, awesome. You guys keep it going in the chat. And it is first declension. But again, reminder, I'm going to say it 100 times today. Make sure you get it from this form. Always go to the genitive. Aitas, aitatis. What would the stem be of that word? A lifetime. It is aitat. Excellent. And it is third. So notice you can be lied to by nominatives. Don't be fooled. Always go to the genitive. Okay? And equus equi, what's the stem? Equi, right? It is equi. The second form, the genitive form being equi, means it belongs to the second declension. What about this word? Fides, fidei. So, This is the rare, but they're out there, fifth declension. And the way you know that the ending is ei and not just the e is the first form. Fides, fidei. All fifth declension nouns are going to follow this very rigid pattern. Eis, ei. Every single one of them is going to look like that. So this one was kind of a confusing one. Okay? So sometimes there are, little tricks to be had. So it is fid, and it is in the fifth declension. But again, they're so rare, you'll learn about 10 fifth declension words, and you'll just know them. What about quercus, quercus, feminine? Love this word. It's always my go-to word. Querc and fourth. Excellent. It is querc, and it is fourth declension. Parens parentis. With this little c here, c means common in gender, which means it's a word that can be masculine or can be feminine, and both forms are the same. Yeah, imagine that. The stem of that word is parent, and it is third declension, right? You do enough of these guys, and hopefully it just starts to kind of become automatic. Oh, everybody's favorite word, agricola, agricolae. Agricole, absolutely, agricole, and it is first declension, America's favorite declension. What about mors mortis, meaning death? It is mort, excellent, making sure that we go to the genitive form to get it, and it is third declension, okay? Again, a reminder, when we build new words, we build from the stem, right? It's why you have words like mortal, mortuary, immortal. They always have that T. Voldemort. Tempus temporis. Oh, you guys are already ahead of me, and I love it. That one was on one of our slides, I think. Oop, that's a typo. Hello. You tempor. No, just tempor. And it is in the third declension. Phenomenal. Oh, that should have been there. A couple more. Race rei. Yeah, so we picked up on the fifth declension thing. Fifth declension is so weird that really the stem of this word is just kind of right? There's always going to be an E in it, so you're always going to see that stem with an E after it, because every ending has an E. But technically the stem would be And then pes pedis, meaning foot. What is my, ped. So think about all the words that you know in English that have to do with feet or being on foot. They're going to have ped in them, not pes. Okay. Why is chat so slow? That's just the nature of the beast. I think the minimum delay is about 2 seconds. Okay, so now down here at the bottom, we're doing a little practice when it comes to the declensions. So we didn't really talk too much about the specific declension endings. We have 7 minutes. Oh, we're so good. We're so good. We're golden. Plus, I'm going to cut it down. So really, if I go till 20, I'll be okay. The stem is insul. Right? It is first declension. You know it. Now, I'm not a big fan of what I see a lot of students doing, which is that whole filling in the stem thing. I'm not really into it. Okay, I don't think of these things as like Legos, where you're like sticking stuff together. They are words, right? So the nominative and the genitive are always given to you. So please, if you're ever asked to do a chart, don't get the first two wrong. It's okay if you do that. The problem becomes the nominative and the accusative. Because sometimes the nominative and accusative are not, they don't look like the stem. For instance, if we did knocks, right? You could fill in your knocked all the way, but I've seen students who fill it in every single box. So as long as you get the right form, I mean, you guys do you, but I like to think of them as their own words, right? Noctis, right? N-O-C-T. But you're right there. All right, so the thing about these declensions is we teach them to you in the same order so that hopefully they will stick with you. But when you know your declensions well enough, you should be able to plug in any order. So we're not going to do it in the standard order. I want you to give me the genitive plural. And try not to go through the whole chart in your brain. Just give me the genitive plural. Yeah, it's insularum, right? I know it's insularum because when I go back up here, here are all my options for genitive plurals. Aurum, aurum, uamerum. They're all pretty much the same, right? And first declension with that A, right? So at least I want you to be in the ballpark, okay? What about accusative plural? Accusative plurals all pretty much look the same. They all have an S at the end, right? So we have insulas, okay? What about accusative singular? Accusative plurals usually have the S on the end. Accusative singulars usually have... They usually have an M, right? And since this is first declension, it's going to have an A in front of it. So insulam. Yep. So I want you guys to feel like you can navigate the box in whatever order you want. If the only way for you guys to get to ablative plural is to go through the other 9 forms first, it's too slow, right? Ablative plurals are always either is or ibus. That's the only possible ending. And dative plurals are always the same as ablative plurals. So it's going to be is or ibus here. It's going to be is or ibus here. Nominative plurals are whatever they need to be, right? One of 5 options typically. Ablative singulars, we said it's usually just a vowel all by itself. So since first declension is really the A declension, it's going to be an A all by itself. And then the dative singular, which is the least important form, dative is the least important case of all the 5, is typically, some kind of a vowel combination at the end. Some kind of one vowel or a diphthong, which means 2 vowels next to each other. And yes, I know it's easy for you to say insula, insulae, insulae, insulam, insula, insulae, insularum, insulis, insulas, insulis. But I want you guys to be able to give me any form, not just be stuck in that one particular order. All right, anus. What's the stem of anus? On, right? It is on. It is on. And what declension is this? It is in the second declension, okay? So we always fill in the first 2 because we should never get those wrong, right? Anus, ani, because those are the given forms. Make sure you spell that word with 2 N's. If you spell it with 1 N, it means an old woman. And it also means something else too. It's second declension. We could go through the pattern, but I told you ablative plural is always is or ibus. So this one happens to be is. Whatever the ablative plural is, so is the dative plural. So those are always going to be the same. I told you that accusative plurals have an S on them. So instead of it being as, which is first declension, what are we going to have for second declension? Instead of as, we're going to have yeah, anos. And an OS. And my filtering on Twitch doesn't seem to like this word, but that's okay. What about genitive plural? We had arum over here for first declension. What are we going to have for second declension? If it's arum in first declension, what's it going to be for second declension? Anorum. Excellent. Right? So we start seeing patterns across the declensions too. Nominative plural, we have to know what our nominative plurals are. So remember we talked about words like octopus, octopi, syllabus, syllabi. These are words that would fall into the second declension. So that's an English pattern we've seen too. Us words becoming E in the plural. And then we have the rest of our declension, which would be ano, anum, ano. Right? Dative being a vowel, ablative being a vowel, accusative having the M at the end. So again, studying patterns across the declensions is going to be crucial. Anus, ani, ano, anum, ano, ani, anorum, anis, anos, anis. And then we get down to a word like fatum, fati, where the stem is fat, not fat. And the declension what is the declension for fatum fati? Oh, we might be having a little lag issue. I don't think I've dropped any frames though. It is second declension. You guys still with me? Let's see. Maybe. All right, hopefully you're still with me. All right, fatum is neuter, right? And when we get into... Hello? When we get into neuter nouns, there are a couple of little tricks to neuter nouns, okay? And that is that nominatives and accusatives... Okay, just making sure you guys are with me. The trick with neuter nouns is that nominative and accusative are always the same. So I recommend if you're doing a neuter noun to just fill those two boxes in first, just to remind you, okay? The plurals of these forms always end in an A. So neuter plurals have kind of a funky thing going on. We'll talk more about this in class. So it's nominatives and accusatives that are going to be a little wonky when it comes to neuter nouns. Other than that, you're basically just going by the normal pattern. So fatum, fati, fato, fatum, fato, fata, fatorum, fatis, fata, and fatis. So the ones you have to worry about when a noun is neuter would be your nominative and your accusative. Okay? And more on that when we actually talk about the declensions themselves in class. So that's kind of a preview of what we're doing tomorrow and Friday. Okay? I'm going to cut the video here so it stays about 30 minutes or so. Thank you guys, those of you who came by. If you're watching this later, This is me saying hello to you from the past, I guess. Is that would work? All right, guys. Take it easy. See you later.